I'm here in the dry canyon of Redmond, Oregon. It's a lovely little natural feature for going jogging, going biking. Some people bring their horses through here. Yes, it's not the Rocky Mountains, it's not the lush greenery of the New England forests, but it has, in its own way, a special kind of beauty. However, lurking beneath this calm, tranquil surface is a dark and sinister reality, a dire situation brewing. Take a good look. Take a good hard look. Do you see it? That's right. Not enough protein. Okay, yes, it was rather an absurd way to introduce the topic, but I'm not wrong. In the first 72 episodes of A Body in Progress, 72 episodes, precisely one has been about nutrition. Now, nutrition is the foundation, the bedrock of getting fit. If you have poor nutrition, it doesn't matter what you do at the gym, it doesn't matter what kinds of jogs you go on. You may lose weight, but you won't become a fit and healthy person. You've got to have your nutrition correct. Today's topic, as per the introduction, will be about protein. Let's briefly back up and remind ourselves of the concept of macronutrients. And that is the three major nutrients, hence the word macro, that we put into our bodies. The proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. But what exactly is a protein? Well, the simple answer is it's a molecule. It actually is, you can reduce molecules. It's not that you need several molecules to make the substance. It's that you can reduce it to one molecule. Now, it's formed from something called amino acids. I did do a little bit of homework on trying to figure out what an amino acid is. I'm trying to think of the words that various sites used. It's a compound, it's a substance. It appears to be, to my amateur brain, a biological or a biochemical element, a substance that functions to help make life possible. When you get certain amino acids together, they form certain proteins. They help with cell adhesion, just holding the cells together. They help with your immune response. So if you want to fight off colds and the flu, keep getting your proteins. They serve the functions all through the brain and the liver and the heart. They're everywhere. And so, it's more than just increasing the size and strength of your myofibrils in your muscle. It's for helping you live. This is a video series about building muscle, so that is what we're going to focus on. It is enough to know that when you consume protein, or consuming protein is necessary if you want to add more myofibrils, if you want to add density and strength and then add size to your muscles for appearance. If you want to improve your muscles, you do need to consume protein. The first question then I'm going to discuss is how much protein? The common answer from any weightlifter, from the Mr. Olympia winners on down to the sophomore weightlifters just getting started in the gym, is that you want 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Using myself as an example, I am currently about 225 pounds. In order to maintain this, or even add some muscle size and burn off some fat, I will want to consume about 225 grams of protein a day. 1 gram of protein provides 4 calories of energy to the body, so if I eat 225 grams of protein, I am providing 900 calories of energy to my body. And the idea is to start with that formula, 1 gram per 1 pound of body weight, and vary it from there. If you are an older person or a more active person, or depending on what your goals are, You kind of you study up and learn to vary where it's going to go. But that's the foundational formula. I went to bodybuilding.com where they have a protein calculator, and it said for me I should be consuming about 243 grams. What I found in actually doing my homework, though, instead of just listening to bodybuilders and weightlifters, is that the 1-to-1 ratio would seem to be rather high, perhaps excessively high. Now, it's not dangerous, but it is high. It's uselessly high. Just one example, a man named Menno Henselmans writes, over 20 other studies have consistently failed to find any benefits of more than 1.6 grams per kilogram per day of protein. Now that means for me, I would actually want to take in, or only need to take in, about 163 grams of protein, way down from 225. So the 1-to-1 ratio, 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of body weight may, and I'll put the word may in here because I don't want to get sued, may just be what we would call bro science. That's not to say that that formula came out of nowhere, that someone just made it up. It could be that decades or even a century ago, when people were first discovering proteins and how they function, and as we researched them, there was a point where some scientist estimated that this was the best amount for keeping your body running, and then later research came along and said, well, not quite, or you don't need that much. That formula came from somewhere. Now, I will say one thing I gathered is that it doesn't seem to be, and I hinted at this earlier, it doesn't seem to be harmful. Eating that much protein seems to be useless. What's his name again? Menno Henselmans indicated in part of his article that what happened was you just reached a point where you've had enough, and anything after that didn't do anything. There came a point where there was no benefit to eating more, but there didn't seem to be any harm to eating more. So if you continue to follow, or begin to follow if you're a beginner, if you use the 1-to-1 ratio, it doesn't seem to be doing you any harm. The only thing it does is force you to eat more than you need to. Let me rephrase. If these newer estimates are correct and you don't need 1-to-1, if that's true, then you'll be eating more than you need to. What is the correct answer on how much protein to consume? And it's a kind of an unsatisfying result here. I don't know. I don't want to be the guy that just goes, you don't listen to those. It's 1-to-1. Yeah, absolutely. Because there were multiple websites and many of them were credible. This was not the result of just one guy out on the internet saying, 1-to-1 is too much. I've done my research and it's lower. No, Menno Henselmans quoted 20 other articles. I found multiple websites and they all indicated that you don't need that much. I know when I started researching it, I thought there would be a concrete answer, and I don't have one for you. If anybody out there watching wants to come along and say, this part of what you said, Brian, is true, this part is not, don't believe so-and-so, I'll be happy to include that in a later episode. But for now, all I can say is eat your protein and eat a pretty good amount. Where do you find protein? We did touch on this topic way back when I had my interview with Bradley Barrett in 2019, 5 years ago. And now I'm finally getting back to this topic. But let's go ahead and review and reinforce that. The obvious one is meat. And chicken breast, white chicken meat, is very popular, in part because chicken has, if I recall, some of the highest density of protein. You get more protein from a half a pound of chicken than you do from half a pound of beef or turkey or other meats. I remember long ago when I was first starting out, there were a couple people in my life who pretty much denounced beef. But the truth is, beef comes with protein. The key to buying beef is buying lean beef, and I'll use ground beef as an example because it's usually very clearly marked on the packaging. You can get beef that's marked as 70% protein and 30% fat, and that means within that packaging, within that tube of ground beef, 70% of what you're holding will be beef, and the other 30% will be the fat that came with the cow and got ground up into it. That's not necessarily bad, and we'll talk about fats in another episode. But what it means is you're just not getting, for the amount of food you're putting in and filling up your stomach with, you're not getting as much protein as you could. It's not as efficient. 90-10 is really good. 90-10 is the best I've seen in the average grocery store. It's also more expensive because fat is cheaper to sell. I don't know the science behind it. I don't know if it's just easier to take a cow and throw it in the grinder and pack it into a tube and not worry about separating out the fat. But I'm going to hear from PETA on that. If you really, really want to cut out the fat, then the expense should be worth it to you. Fish is incredibly popular on the list of foods for protein that weightlifters and bodybuilders eat. I have never liked fish, so that one's very hard for me. The only fish that I can say I enjoy eating is canned tuna fish, mixed with mayonnaise, so I've added back in some fat, and then eaten as a sandwich. So I've thrown in some carbs in the bread there. I have at times, on recommendation of Bill Haynes, a bodybuilder, eaten just cans of tuna for lunch. I'll just open up a can, drain the water, eat the tuna with a fork, and that's okay. That's okay. I am good with that. Just about any meat will have protein content. The density of it, the efficiency with which you can consume it, plus some of the other stuff that comes along with it, are how we come up with these rankings. So further down on the list, turkey is on the list. You want to have turkey? Go ahead and have turkey. And then there's also pork. Pork does have protein in it, but pork typically comes with a lot of fat. And then because of the way pigs eat, pork is considered downright evil by some people. But I enjoy pork, but you do have to be careful. I know. Somebody's going to say, but Brian, bacon. Bacon is tasty. Bacon is yummy. I like bacon. When my wife serves bacon with breakfast, I have to slow down or the kids don't get any. That is all true. You will get protein with pork, but you will get a lot more fat with it too. So I would recommend keeping the pork down. And I don't mean keeping it down as in not throwing it back up. I mean, that's what I get for ad-libbing. Eggs are considered a good source of protein, so if you want to start your morning with some scrambled eggs, that's a good way to do it. The protein is mostly found in the whites, and the yolk apparently comes with more fat and possibly more cholesterol, so that's where it gets its bad reputation, and most weightlifters and bodybuilders will recommend just the egg whites. I don't enjoy eggs in general, so just the egg whites actually makes it even worse. And in fact, for me, I have a really hard time just eating plain scrambled eggs. I can't eat any other kind of eggs. So a fried egg where the yolk is still liquid, that is just disgusting to me. And for the average person out there, again, unless you have a lofty goal of just the perfect model workout body, go ahead and eat, the egg, the white and the yolk. Just eat it. That's fine. Proteins can also be found in plant life. It is possible to be a vegetarian or even a vegan and actually still get yourself in bodybuilding competition shape. I know people who have done that, and they look great. I would imagine it's a little harder to do just because you have to focus. You have to go out and research which vegetable products come with protein. And the big list, or the big contenders there, are the bean family, the legumes and the lentils, things like that. I'm not really fond of those. I would have a very hard time being a vegetarian and a weightlifter. In fact, I would probably give up all hope of ever being in a bodybuilding show because I just don't like beans that much. But it does exist, in the plant world. You do a little homework, and you can live a vegetarian life and still become a very muscular person. The complete list of sources for your protein is actually quite long, but as you go down the list, of course, it becomes less and less efficient. You have to eat more of whatever it is you're eating to get a good amount of protein. But you'll find it here and there. You'll find it in almonds. I had recommended to me cottage cheese as kind of a dessert, as kind of a way to end your day. An hour before bed, have a serving of cottage cheese, and that gets you a little bit more protein at the end of the day. Then, of course, if you have a hard time consuming that much chicken or that much beef or that many beans, the most common fitness supplement is protein powder. This is not an episode about supplements, but just briefly, when you go shopping or if you go shopping for protein powder, you will want to read the label. Some are better than others. Talk to people who are experienced in it. Because some are very cheap and come with a lot of extra filler. And so when you put a scoop of protein powder into your mix, your milk or your water, you might be getting really very little protein for how much you have to drink. So look at the labels, find the ones that have a good reputation. If it's a good protein powder, it helps you get more protein into you. It helps you reach your goal of 1-to-1 without feeling stuffed at the end of the day. The advice I've also received is that when you are crafting a meal for lunch and dinner especially, the way to think of it is put protein on your plate that amounts to a deck of cards. So like a chicken breast that fills up about that much space. A steak that's about that large, if you can hold yourself back. I love steak. That's a small steak to me, but think of a deck of cards when you're putting food on your plate and make that your protein for that meal. One specific tip I'll pass on about when to eat protein is that just about every lifter I know goes by the advice that you should have some protein within half an hour of your workout. If you go to the gym and you do a resistance workout, you've got the muscles that have been broken down and they're going to now enter the healing phase where they are going to bond again. They're going to fix up any of the micro tears that you've created, and they're going to get stronger. And they're going to want protein to do that. So if you finish your workout and then rush home and get some protein in you, that's a good time to do it. That apparently, and I do not speak authoritatively here, I'm passing this on, that apparently is an optimal time for the muscles to synthesize new protein in. That's going to get you started. You follow what we've just covered in forming your diet and in consideration specifically of protein, and that will be a good place for you to generally live by. And if you want to achieve something more in a sport, in a competition, if you want to look better, if you want to really look your best, then you can research deeper about specific proteins and when and how much and all of that. But I think I'm going to put my own stamp of approval on this as a basic course in protein. And if anybody watching this wants to disagree, then we will include their comments and my responses in a further episode. And if you're a vegetarian, I'll have your helping of bacon.